Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to meet my biological mom after in person I signed up for a DNA testing site? Original post. I'm a 24 male who was adopted when I was 6 years old. I've always felt incredibly lucky because my adoptive parents, who were in their late 20s when they took me in, have been nothing short of amazing. They've loved and supported me as if I were their own flesh and blood, and I've never felt like anything was missing in my life because of being adopted. Growing up, I had very minimal details about my adoption. I know that I was removed from my biological family by social services due to neglect and abuse, but I don't remember anything about my life before I was adopted. It's not something I've dwelled on much because I've never felt like I needed those missing pieces to feel complete or valued. Recently, out of simple curiosity, I decided to sign up for one of those at-home DNA testing kits. I wasn't looking for a reunion or any deep connection. I just wanted to know more about my genetic history, like why I was removed from my biological family and if there were any medical issues I should be aware of. Honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone closely related to me, so it felt like a low-stakes way to get some answers. About 8 weeks after sending off the kit, I finally remembered to check the results, and to my surprise, I matched with my biological mother. She had sent me a message saying she was overjoyed that I had done the test and that she desperately wanted to reconnect with me and the rest of my biological family. She mentioned that she's thought of me every day and that I was always loved, and even that I have a biological little brother who is very excited to meet me, something I didn't even know. Her message was really emotional and, to be honest, overwhelming. But to me, she's a complete stranger, and reading those words didn't stir anything in me other than discomfort. I spent a lot of time crafting a thoughtful response to Bio Mom, explaining that while I appreciated her message, I wasn't interested in forming a relationship with her or any of my biological family. I made it clear that my reason for doing the DNA test was purely informational. I wanted to understand my past, maybe get some medical history, and learn why I was removed, but that was it. I apologized if my actions gave her the wrong impression. Bio Mom read my message and replied, saying that she'd be willing to give me all the information I wanted, but only if I agreed to meet her at a cafe to discuss our relationship further. I refused, telling her that I wasn't comfortable with a face-to-face meeting. I offered a phone call as a compromise, but emphasized that I just wanted the information and then for both of us to move on with our lives. She outright refused to provide any information unless I agreed to meet with her in person and discuss our relationship. I talked to my best friend about this, and she sided with Bio Mom, saying that I was being unfair. She argued that by signing up for the DNA site, I had essentially opened the door to this kind of situation, and that refusing to meet my Bio Mom now is like playing mind games and leading them on. So, am I the a-hole for not wanting a relationship with my biological mom after I signed up for the DNA testing site? Now, for the top advice before reading the update. Not the a-hole. She's holding your info hostage to get you to meet with her, which is her being the a-hole. You were removed for a reason, and she probably wants to fill you with her version. Since you know her name, can you contact the agency that removed you to request the information? I could have always gone through the route of getting in touch with social services and seeing what they can tell me, though I am not sure how much they can share because of data protection, so I just thought it would be easier this way. Also, it would have been nice to hear it from my family's perspective, if you get what I mean. She doesn't sound mentally healthy. Don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. You owe her nothing, and she's manipulative as heck. She sounds like a pushy lady. I wouldn't agree to meet her. And she already told her son he'd be meeting you? I don't know, honestly. She must have at least told him that I was on his site. She could also be using him as a manipulation tactic. You're not the a-hole, and your friend is an idiot. Your bio mom made a choice to give you up. You had no control in that decision. All of these years later, she's still trying to control things, and you're not the a-hole for wanting access on your terms. I don't think Bio Mom made a choice to give him up. I think her actions triggered her son's removal. Otherwise, I agree with you 100%. This is an awful self-serving woman with no compassion for the man's feelings. Now for the first update. It's been about 9 days since I last posted, and I thought it was time for an update. I really want to thank everyone who took the time to comment and offer advice. I've read through everything, and it's been both helpful and eye-opening. So after all the advice and some serious thinking, I decided to talk to my biological mom again, hoping that maybe if I explained myself better, she'd understand where I was coming from. Unfortunately, the things went downhill fast. Instead of trying to meet me halfway, she just got more manipulative, insisting that I was being selfish for not wanting to meet her in person. She refused to give me any information unless I agreed to her terms, which was a hard no for me. I've come to realize that I was pretty naive to think that my biological family might be decent people after everything. I mean, I was removed from their care for a reason, but I guess a part of me wanted to believe that people can change. Looking back, I feel kind of dumb for even starting this whole journey. It's brought up a lot of emotions that I wasn't really prepared to deal with, and to be honest, I'm feeling pretty down about the whole situation. And as for my best friend, well, that's another disappointment. She didn't just side with my biological mom initially, she's been unsupportive throughout this whole mess. Even after I told her about the latest conversation, she couldn't really understand why I was so upset. She kept saying that I should just give them a chance and not be so harsh. It's like she doesn't get how hard this is for me, and I'm starting to feel like she never really did. It's tough because I've always considered her one of my closest friends, but right now I'm not sure she's someone I can rely on. After all this, I decided to sit down with my adoptive parents and talk everything over with them. I hadn't really opened up to them about how deep this was affecting me, but they were amazing, as always. They were upset when they heard how my biological mom was acting, and they reassured me that none of this is my fault. They reminded me that there's a reason I was removed from that situation, and it's not on me to fix it or make things right with people who've clearly not changed. Talking with them made me realize just how lucky I am to have them. They've been there for me every step of the way, and they made it clear that whatever happens, they're my real family, the ones who loved and supported me no matter what. It's hard not to feel down after everything that's happened, but having them in my corner makes it a bit easier to cope. Honestly, I regret even starting this whole DNA journey. It's brought up more pain than I expected, and I can't help but wish I just left the past where it belongs. But at the same time, I'm grateful that it's reminded me of how blessed I am to have my adoptive parents. They're the ones who've always been there for me, and I couldn't ask for a better family. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to focus on the people who truly care about me and let go of the rest. It's not easy, but I know I'm on the right path. Thanks again to everyone who reached out. It's really helped me feel less alone in all this. I'm sorry this happened this way. Glad to hear your parents are supportive and understanding. As an adoptive mama, I just want you to know that you were 100% in the right. I'm sorry you didn't get the information. You are in my thoughts. I hope we can give our kiddo a blessed life like your adoptive parents gave you, and he thinks as well about us when he is your age. Take care and be well. You're a good person. As someone who was adopted at 10 days old who's now 51, my parents were my best friends along with my wife. They're 84 now and still going strong. Did a DNA thing for cultural interest, but never really looked at the matches and never read any messages to me. OP, stick with your family. Sounds like they're pretty amazing. Good luck. OP, you can probably request your child welfare records if you know what state you lived in when you were removed. You are entitled to records about yourself, and while they may be redacted, you can hopefully gain some insight as to the situation if that's what you want. Last update. Hey everyone, I've been thinking a lot about my family today, especially after everything that's been going on lately. It got me reminiscing about some of the best moments I've had with them. And there's one memory that stands out. Something from when I was still a kid that I'll never forget. I must have been about 8 years old, just a couple of years after I was adopted. It was around Christmas time, and I remember feeling nervous because it was only my second Christmas with my adoptive parents. Holiday always makes me feel weird, even now. Anyway, my dad's friends own a Christmas tree farm, and that year, my mom and dad decided to take me to pick our Christmas tree. We went what felt like hours walking through rows and rows of trees. My parents kept asking me which one I liked best, and I remember feeling so much pressure. Like I had to pick the absolute best one, or else I'd ruin Christmas. But they were so patient, letting me take my time. Finally, I pointed out a tree. Honestly, it looked like every other one to me, but my parents made a huge deal out of it. My dad knelt down to start sewing, and I remember him pretending to struggle, saying, "Oh no, I think this tree might be too strong for me." My dad made me come over and help, saying he couldn't do it alone. So there I was, this little 8-year-old pretending to help my dad saw down this tree. Of course, I wasn't actually doing anything, but they made me feel like I was the strongest kid in the world. When the tree finally fell, my dad swept me up in his arms and spun me around, saying, "We did it." After we got home and set up the tree, my mom brought out these old boxes full of ornaments. She told me that we were going to start a new tradition. Every year, we'd each pick out one new ornament to add to the tree, something that represented something special from that year. That night, they handed me my very first ornament, a little wooden bear holding a heart with the word family carved into it. My mom said, "This one's for you, because you made our family complete." I remember holding that ornament, feeling this huge wave of love and belonging that I'd never really felt before. At the time, I don't think it even hit me how impactful that was. How that moment defines the way I look at myself today. I was part of a loving family. I was their family. Every Christmas after that, we'd pull out that little wooden bear and hang it up first. It became our tradition. The reason I've been thinking about this memory today is because it's a reminder of how lucky I am to have the parents I do. They didn't just give me a home, they gave me a sense of belonging, and they gave me love. Even with everything that's been going on, I know that I've got something really special, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Anyway, thanks for letting me share this. I just needed to remind myself how amazing my family is, and I hope it brings a smile to your face like it does to mine. Next story. Am I the a-hole for stopping financial support for my sister after she bought a new car? For a few years now, I've been financially supporting my sister who's had trouble keeping a stable job. She's constantly complained that she can barely make ends meet, so I've been sending her $200 a month to help with groceries, rent, and other expenses. I did this because I felt that family should always support each other when needed. A few days ago, I saw on her Instagram that she bought a brand new car. I was shocked because according to her, she was struggling just to pay her bills. When I asked how she could afford it, she told me she took out a loan because she needs a car to get to work. I found that really irresponsible. She could have bought a used car or waited until she was in a better financial situation. I decided to stop sending her money because I feel like she's taking advantage of me. But when I told the rest of my family, they said I'm overreacting. They think I should keep supporting her because I make good money, and it's only $200 a month. Now I feel guilty, but at the same time, I think she's making poor financial decisions. Am I the a-hole for cutting off financial support after she bought a car? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If she can afford a new car, she doesn't need your money. You're not responsible for funding her poor decisions. Family helps, but not at the cost of being taken advantage of. Exactly. I agree. If she can afford a car, why is she asking for money? If $200 per month is no big deal, then presumably your family can cover it. If it is a big deal, they have no business telling you what to do with your money. Exactly. And on top of that, she's taking money and buying a car right away. It's just ridiculous. Tell them you need the money to buy a new car. Have you even ever had real thank you? Not the a-hole. If she could get a car loan, she hasn't been struggling. She used you. I'm sorry about that, but you live and learn. Exactly. I think the same. She took advantage of me and I know how she is. You have to learn from mistakes. I'm 51 and bought a 1998 Buick Century with 65,000 miles on it. The AC didn't work for 2 years. She's taking advantage of you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother and his family stay with me after their house flooded? Hey everyone, I'm 34 female living in a 3-bedroom house that I own. It's just me here, and my brother 37 male and his wife 35 female have 2 kids, ages 8 and 5. A few days ago, their house flooded due to a burst pipe, and it's going to take weeks for the repairs. They've asked if they can stay with me during this time. But I refused, and now the whole family's upset with me. Let me explain. My brother and I aren't super close, but we get along well enough. However, his kids are extremely energetic and honestly a bit destructive. When they visit, they run around, touch everything. And the last time they were here, they broke a vase that belonged to my late grandmother. My brother and his wife laughed it off, saying kids will be kids, and didn't offer to replace it. Also, I work from home full-time and have a demanding job. I need a quiet environment to concentrate. And with 2 kids running around, that's not going to happen. I suggested they stay with my parents, who live about 20 minutes away, but they said my parents' house is too small for all of them, and that it's more convenient to stay with me because I'm closer to the kids' school and their workplaces. My brother told me I was being selfish and not considering their situation, and my parents hinted I should be more generous and that family's everything. But I really don't want to live with 2 kids running around my house for weeks. I know they're going through a tough time, but I don't think I should have to upend my life because of it. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother and his family stay with me? Not a-hole. Give them the real reason. Your children are loud and destructive. When they had an accident last time, you didn't care, so I don't want you in my home. They don't have a good history with Opie staying in her house. And the whole family who is upset can chip in to pay for a rental. Plus, their insurance might cover some of that expense. You have a 3-bedroom house. 1 bedroom for you, 1 for you to work from home, and 1 for the family of 4? But they said my parents' house is too small for all of them. An extra 20 minutes travel for school and work is nothing. It will motivate them to get their house fixed sooner. It sounds like your parents don't want them either, which is why they're pressuring you. Not a-hole. Oh no, they expect Opie to give up her office for her family because she doesn't really need it and we need a space more. So Opie has 1 bedroom, brother and sister-in-law have 1, and the kids have the other bedroom. Are you kidding? She'll have to give up her bedroom because they're family and of course guests. Also, the precious kids can't be asked to share a room. She's on a couch of course, as well as being the unpaid maid and babysitter because you work from home. So it's not like she really works, right? Most homeowners and renters insurance will put them up in a hotel. You could remind them of that. PSA to renters. Spend $300 a year and get renter's insurance. It's worth it. It's always so upsetting to have people try to pressure you into giving funds because someone, neighbor or coworker, lost their belongings to a fire and they couldn't be bothered to pay for a minimal renter's insurance plan. The insurance policies are ridiculously cheap. I mean, a 10K policy used to run around $20 a month. There's a bed, couch, a few tables and chairs, and a replacement wardrobe. It's not extravagant, but it'll get you going. Most people spend way more on expensive coffees daily.
Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter's half-sister the truth about her mom and dad and potentially alienating her from them? I, 42 male, have 1 daughter with ex-fiancé, 35 female, who is 14 years old. My fiancé got pregnant shortly after with another child who ultimately turned out not to be mine. This girl is now 13 and she lives with my ex and her new husband. When my daughter was 2.5 years old and her sister was almost 1 year old, my fiancé revealed something crazy to me. Essentially, she had been living a double life and the kids that I thought were mine were not in fact mine. I am somewhat clueless of a man and spent a lot of time working as I was an up-and-coming programmer at the time. On top of this, I am a total introvert, so I was completely blindsided by this. Essentially, my fiancé was really young when we met, and she was a poor college student at the time. She only hooked up with me because I had a good job and health insurance, and she told me she needed the insurance to get through the pregnancies. Now, some of this was a lie, because DNA tests revealed that I was the father of the oldest girl. I should have been mad and outraged, but I was just sad. I actually tried to fight in courts to be the legal dad of the 1-year-old that was not biologically mine. I lost a court battle, and only got partial custody of my daughter. Surprisingly, we were able to co-parent well despite the traumatic background. My daughter and her half-sister are incredibly good friends and hang around in the same social circles. Therefore, when my daughter had birthday parties or any celebration or sleepover at my house, her sister always came along. I didn't mind this at all and supported it. So here is where I may be the a-hole. I am doing very well for myself, whereas my ex-fiancé is not. Her and her husband and 4 kids total live in an apartment that is about 15 minutes walk from my 3-bedroom house. The husband is not the dad of the 13-year-old, and he bolted long ago, leaving 13-year-old with a very absentee father. Additionally, their current stepdad is on disability and just lays in bed taking pills all day. Not a bad guy, but got into a work accident and got dependent, I guess. I pay more in child support than I am legally required, because I know they use what I pay for them for the other kids as well, and I want my daughter safe. I guess the conditions are not comfortable for my daughter and her half-sister, so they often walk to my house and stuff when they need to get away. One day, the 13-year-old was really upset about something her bio dad did, and even told me that I did more for her than he did. That's when I just let her know the truth about our history. Apparently, this made her blow up at her mom, and she begged for me to adopt her basically, and now her mom doesn't want her at my house. I feel like I am not an a-hole for just telling the truth, that I was legally her father for a year, but honestly, I just let the truth out because I want her to know why I was doing so much for her. Am I the a-hole for revealing the truth about her mom? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It always amazes me how people get mad when others learn the truth about them. If you're embarrassed to tell people, then why would you do it? She wanted to discuss parentage with you and you told her the truth about hers. She's 13, which is just shy of the age where most kids are legally allowed to have input in which parent they live with. The court feels these kids are old enough. I can tell you that I hated learning about things much later in life and hated that family ever tried to hide stuff. It felt like betrayal. I always appreciated the adults who were upfront about it. To make a real follow-up to this, unlike the "you're the a-hole" comments which was bonkers, I think you hit the nail in the head. If Opie didn't say anything at all false, and he just told the truth, he can't be the a-hole. And exactly as you said, if you don't want something to be told about you or to be known about you, why do it in the first place? The kids deserve to know the truth about their parents. And if you think lying to your mature enough kids is the right thing to do because you don't want people to think you did something you actually did to be known, then I don't know what to say. Not the a-hole. It doesn't sound like you did it maliciously, and she is old enough to know the truth. She would have learned sooner or later, and she deserves the truth. Yes, I totally agree. Kids can handle the truth as long as it's explained in an age-appropriate way. Better than storing up resentment for later. Not the a-hole. She's 13. That's old enough to understand the situation. I'm sure she feels loved and validated knowing that you did want to be a part of her life. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my bio dad my stepdad is walking me down the aisle? I, 29 female, am getting married this year, and I told my bio dad, 57 male, that he will not be walking me down the aisle. My mom, 50 female, and him divorced when I was about 4 years old. They had a very horrible relationship, and he has done and said a lot of terrible things to her, some of which I have memories of. Immediately after their split, he got with his now ex-wife who mistreated me. She would often refer to me as the loose woman's daughter, and drunkenly tried to attack me numerous times. Because of this, I never wanted to go to their house or have a relationship with my dad. I would cry and beg to not go visit them. Eventually, the court ruled that I couldn't be forced to visit if I didn't want to. I'm close with some of the family members on my dad's side, particularly my grandmother, aunt, and some cousins, so I would see him when visiting with them. I had told him we would never have a relationship as long as he was with his wife, because of all the trauma she has caused me and other family members. He condoned her behavior. A few years ago, he let me know he was taking their kids, who had been subject to years of mistreatment, and leaving her. He never apologized or wanted to repair our relationship, but simply wanted me to testify against her in court. While he is still going through the divorce and custody battle, he has also since moved on and gotten engaged to another woman. Our relationship has been an endless cycle of him telling me he wants to be involved in my life, but never actually making an effort. I consider him more of a family friend as our relationship is very surface level. A few months ago, my grandmother was very sick and had surgery and had to find out from my aunt and my mom's side. My stepdad, 48 male, has been in my life since I was 9, and we have an amazing relationship. My fiancé and I spent a lot of time with my parents and my 2 younger siblings. He had never once asked me who would be walking me down the aisle, but he has said whatever I decide, he would respect since it was my day. Although I don't call him dad, he has taken on that role in every aspect of my life. When I told my bio dad about my decision, he was very upset and said that in his eyes it would have been okay if it both walks me down. He went on to say my stepdad had only been there half my life, and that as a baby I was his pride and joy. I asked him to instead do a reading during the ceremony, which was not good enough for him. When he declined, I said, okay, thank you, and that I looked forward to seeing him at the wedding, as it is not uncommon for us going 6+ months without seeing each other unless other family members invite me to events. Then he responded by asking if he did something wrong to make me not want him there, despite me giving no indication that he was not welcome. I have refused to engage further with him, as I am uninterested in rehashing the trauma of my childhood with him once again. Am I the a-hole? You know the old expression, you can choose your friends but you can't choose your family? Sometimes that's flat out wrong. Like here, your stepfather chose you and your bio father chose not you. You quite naturally shape your wedding based on those choices and the relationships that resulted. Not the a-hole, it's your wedding. I asked him to instead do a reading during the ceremony. You offered a nice compromise which he rejected. Stepfather's been the key father figure in your life for 20 years. In the words of the great Yondu, he may have been your father, girl, but he wasn't your daddy. Thank you. I understand it's his right to turn down the reading, but I felt like I gave him the role I was comfortable with and that wasn't good enough. Not the a-hole. He never apologized, doesn't seem to care about the negative effects he had in your life, but acts entitled. I don't think he actually cares about you, just what people might say if he doesn't walk you down the aisle. Honestly, that is exactly what I thought. He cares more about the perception from his family once everyone knows. Not the a-hole. What a jerk he is. He just wants all the glory and attention of looking like a great father on your wedding day instead of actually being a great father. I'd do the same thing if I was in your shoes. Actually, I think you were really nice what you said when you told him. I would have told him the truth and exactly what I thought of him. Trust me, I wanted to. My fiancé was the one who told me to keep it short and sweet, so that he knows there's no room for discussion and the decision is made. Also, there's only so many times you can tell someone all the things they've done wrong. If they don't get it, they never will. Next story. Am I the a-hole for turning down my stepmother's necklace for my wedding? I, 25 female, am getting married later this year. Got a family necklace from my grandma that's my mom, aunts, grandma and 2 cousins weren't theirs. Had that locked in very early, and then my stepmother, of 14 years, tells me she saved the necklace from her wedding for me to wear for mine, as a symbol of us being a true mother-daughter despite not being biologically related. I told her that I had already gotten a necklace from my mom's family, and I wanted to wear that. She was upset. Asked me why I didn't want to get it from her over them. I said because I want something of my mom's to wear on my wedding day, and this has family meaning. She told me what she's giving me has meaning, since her mom gave it to her when she married my dad. I told her it was a sweet offer and I appreciated it, but she could always give it to one of her daughters when they get married. She said it wasn't about that she wanted me to wear it too, and she wanted me to find a way to wear it, not include it, but wear it. I told her I wasn't going to replace the other necklace with hers. She's hurt and angry with me. My dad asked me why I couldn't reassure her that I still see her as my mom and that she didn't need a necklace for that. I told him because I don't see her as my mom. I told him he knows that. She knows that. And yes, she loves me like a daughter, but a lie isn't going to make things better. She will still want me to wear her necklace. She will still bring it up down the line. They told me I should make it up to her and figure out how to wear it to make her happy. My dad suggested I wear one for the ceremony and one for the reception. I said no to that. He told me I was a a-hole for refusing to find a way. She told me that I could wear both together, that they could overlap and I could wear both my moms on me. To try and stop the drama and prevent them from bringing it up more, I asked would she be happy if it were pinned to my bouquet or something. She told me that's a piss-poor consolation prize, and she won't be happy unless I wear it, and that by refusing, I am being needlessly cruel. In my heart, I believe I handled it as well as I could. But am I the a-hole? The reaction to this is making me wonder if I need to reevaluate how I view this. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding and you want to wear the family necklace from your mom's side. That's your decision. If she isn't happy and doesn't understand, that's on her. She has no right to be angry about it. I guess she might be disappointed, but turning down any alternative makes her the a-hole here. Edit. From reading the comments, I see you lost your mom, so that makes stepmom even more the a-hole and she can buzz all the way off. I'm sorry for your loss. Forget about keeping the peace. Stepmother is already on a rampage. Her and her father have bulldozed their way of thinking throughout Opie's life. They expected that Opie loved the stepmother as if she was her biological mom. The boundary pushing continues and will go on unless Opie takes a stand. This is Opie's opportunity to be independent and not compromise herself for the sake of keeping the peace, since it appears that she has been doing that all her life with the stepmother. Time to stop this pushy behavior, especially when it's Opie's day. No compromises, no prisoners. Continue saying no to all suggestions. Do not entertain any suggestions nor give a reason as to why not. Not Dayhall. She's being needlessly difficult, and the bouquet thing was a good compromise. Piggybacking to add that since she's being difficult, time to take no prisoners. I want to wear my dead mother's necklace for my wedding. Why are you trying to take away my connection to my dead mother? Hit them hard with guilt trip. Remind them nobody who actually loves you would want to take this from you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my child's mother that she knew what she signed up for? I had a very short relationship with a woman. We weren't really together because I don't, have relationships with people very often because it disgusts me. I've diagnosed OCD, but would be germaphobe even without that. I've been in therapy, but some things don't go away. I don't have as many of the rituals, but I can't just ignore how disgusting people are. I can't deal with bodily fluids at all. I know immediately when something, example a baby needing a diaper change when I'm holding them, happens and I just need them away from me, so I can try not to need to leave immediately to go puke or take a shower. I also have epilepsy, and with my meds and condition, I have to have a solid 8 hours of sleep every night. There are no exceptions to this unless I want to be of even less help and end up in the hospital with potentially now ineffective meds. Because of these two things, I never wanted to have children or thought that it would happen. I've always used protection on the rare occasions that it came up. But one of them breaks and here we are. When my child's mother got pregnant, I made sure she was aware of these things, but she chose to keep the baby anyway. We broke up, and while there is no formal child support, I try to help. I visit her and the baby multiple times a week, and can hold the baby so she can go do something else. It just can't last that long before she has to come deal with it. I cannot change diapers or do feeds or anything like that. She is now complaining that she has to do everything by herself. Is overwhelmed. It has no help because she can't just have constant visitors like in normal times and I don't do anything. Because I literally can't. I reminded her that she knew what she signed up for when she insisted on keeping the baby. But now she's mad at me and is enlisting whoever she can. Am I in the wrong here? She chose this knowing that I won't be able to help her beyond money. Everyone sucks here. There is a risk to sleeping together, and babies are a part of that risk. Even with protection or birth control, no option is 100% risk-free. You're not a victim. Nobody is a victim here except the child. You should look into getting a vasectomy so you don't have any more accidents. Get a vasectomy and go to the courts to work out how much child support you should be paying. As is, you're dropping the ball massively. Completely this. You're the a-hole, OP. You should have gotten a vasectomy as soon as you were old enough. Men don't have the same restrictions on their body autonomy as women do, and that would have been the responsible thing for you to do. You didn't. You couldn't be bothered to get a small change to your body that would ensure this wasn't a problem for you. But you're okay with thinking that you can just not do your share in raising a child. Not everyone believes in termination, and you think you can have the say over her body when really you had the say over yours. Go to court, work out how much back pay you owe her for child support, and then pay regularly what the court determines you owe. I would have said equal share here, but you could have very easily ensured this would never be a problem for you. You chose not to, and you decided that you can get over your wishes long enough to be intimate and enjoyed it enough that you get off. But you can't get over your wishes to deal with an infant? Your choices, your messes. Deal with it. Find out how much money you owe. You're the a-hole. You say you made your child's mother aware of your limitations when she got pregnant. You always knew your limitations. You always knew that contraception can fail. You always knew that sleeping with a woman can lead to pregnancy. You should have made your girlfriend aware of your limitations before you ever did it. She wasn't fully informed before you had slept. Given that you're very clear that you never wanted children and can't contribute to raising them, it even goes so far as saying you should have had a vasectomy before even considering being intimate. Light, you're the a-hole, not for being unable to do things due to your conditions, but definitely for the heartless way you're talking about the mother of your child. She's had a baby, in a pandemic, and she's telling you as clear as day that she is struggling. Could she have been nicer / used a better tone? Absolutely. But the mother of your child is struggling and needs help. It is on you to help her. If not with feeding / changing / night duty, then think of what other things you could be doing. Can you be doing the shopping for her? Could you help clean her place while she's in the baby nap? Could you cook food or buy meals in bulk? Can you help with mental load, booking appointments and accompanying them, researching daycares, shopping for the next size of clothes? Could you organize for a laundry service to come and help out? You are capable of more than a monetary contribution, and you should start looking for ways to support your child and its mother.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to meet my mom after she went no contact with me for over a decade? So, a little background. I'm 35 male and my parents divorced when I was 17. My dad struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, and my mom eventually left him, which I totally understood and supported. Living with him was impossible. He wasn't violent but verbally abusive, and he spent all our money on his habits. That was the last straw for my mom. After the divorce, my dad spiraled. He nearly overdosed and ended up in the ICU. I was living with my mom at a time, but I was scared that my dad would die, so I moved back with him and my uncle's family. My mom was disappointed, but let me make my choice. Losing my mom, most of his friends, going broke, nearly dying finally got through to my dad, and he promised he would get better for me. It was hard to watch, but he actually turned things around. My uncle paid for everything: rehab, therapy, medical bills, and after about 5 years, my dad was clean and somewhat healthy again. He even apologized to my mom, and she forgave him, though she told me later it was only for my sake so that they could be civil at future events like my graduation or wedding. Over those years, I kept in contact with my mom, regularly met with her. She had moved on and met a great guy, who she eventually married. She was much happier and I was happy for her. I thought we had a pretty good relationship. That changed when I was 23. My mom asked me to come over and she told me she was still angry and disappointed that I chose my dad over her after the divorce. She said I was ungrateful for everything she went through, putting up with my dad's nonsense, and then she hit me with something that still pisses me off today. She told me she could see me becoming a drunk and a drug addict like my dad because I stayed close to him. I don't drink, I don't do drugs to this day, and I had no idea where that even came from. I was floored. I thought we had moved past all that, but apparently she'd been harboring resentment for years. Then she said that she wanted to go no contact with me because being around me brought back too many bad memories of my dad. She said she had found peace and happiness, and I was a reminder of all the pain she'd been through. I didn't know what to say except okay. I later found out from a cousin on her side that her whole family was angry with me for staying with my dad back then, and they all went no contact with me for her sake, saying that I betrayed her. I haven't seen or heard from my mom since that day. Fast forward to now, my dad passed away 2 years ago from a heart attack, a result of his years of addiction. Despite being clean for over a decade, he had lingering medical issues. I recently got married and my wife posted some pictures from the wedding on Facebook. My wife said a woman claiming to be a cousin contacted her. I looked at the message and it was cousin from my mom's side, asking if it was really me in the pictures with my full name. I told my wife to ignore it, but then I got a call from my uncle later that same day, saying that my mom showed up at his house. For context, the house where my uncle lives currently used to be the home where I grew up with my parents. My uncle said she asked him to arrange a meeting between us, saying she wants to apologize to me face to face. He told me he can set it up if I want. Honestly, after all these years, I feel nothing for her. except maybe a slight resentment for thinking that I would turn out as an addict. I was going to say no right away, but my wife thinks that's a crappy thing to do and I should at least hear her out, let her apologize, and then go back to never seeing her again if I want. She says despite what she did shield me from most of Dad's addictions growing up. Now I'm having second thoughts. Am I the a-hole if I refuse to meet her? Not the a-hole, but I am wondering if you are an only child. Her reasoning might be that since you got married, you might also be having kids, and she wants to be a grandmother. You have to think about what her ulterior motive might be, and this is what I come up with. One of my reasonings is also this. She never cared before. That cousin probably told her about the wedding pictures. Not a-hole. I think you were very kind to be there for your dad when he needed you, even though he should have been the one taking care of you. It was really cruel of your mom to punish you for that kindness, and whether or not you want to hear her out is your decision. I do like your wife's attitude, that you can hear your mom out and then decide if you want to forgive her or not. But what your mom did was horrible, and it would be understandable if you didn't want to talk to her. I agree with everything, except your take on the wife's attitude. I think she's pushing her own feelings, not supporting Opie with this. He doesn't owe his mother hearing her out, just so she feels less guilty. My wife is just looking out for me, so that I don't have any regrets. I know she will fully support me if I say I do not want to meet her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for waiting to divorce my wife until it was a good time for me? My ex-wife and I were married for over 20 years and have 2 children together, 22 male and 20 female. For most of my marriage, things were pretty balanced. We both shared housework and childcare responsibilities. We were each stay-at-home parents for over a year after each child, her with our son and me with our son and daughter. We always had agreements in how we wanted to divide work and generally had decent communication. This changed when my oldest went to high school. My wife got a new job that was both very demanding on her time and was 50% travel. This meant that I had to handle everything about 2 weeks per month. And when she was home, she wasn't holding up her side of the work with agreements. I did my best to be accommodating, and we worked through redistributing chores/housework a few times to make it fit her schedule better. But a lot of the work just kept falling to me. When the pandemic happened, things got worse, but I tried to just suck it up because I know the lockdowns were temporary. Finally, when things opened back up, things continued to decline and I asked to go to counseling. She missed a lot of our meetings and just didn't commit to it. At this point, I decided that I wanted a divorce. Unfortunately, it was a really tough time for the family. My son was getting ready for college in person after his freshman year being remote, which was both financial and logistical challenge. At the same time, my daughter was also having some issues with depression, and I had become her main support person, with my wife gone half the time. I made a decision to wait until my daughter was in a better mental state and our family was in a financial stable place before I filed for divorce. I did my best to continue to contribute and was essentially a single parent for 3 years. On a few occasions, I brought up counseling again, but my wife said things were good and we wouldn't go. We pretty much weren't intimate for that period of time, and there was one summer where she essentially moved to North Carolina for 6 weeks for work. She came home on some weekends. Last year, after my daughter started sophomore year of college, and she was in a better place mentally and emotionally, I sold off some of my stock investments to create a trust for my kids, to ensure college was covered. Then I filed for divorce. At first, my wife was really mad. Then she left to live in North Carolina again. When she came back 4 weeks later, she said she wanted to work through it. But I told her I had made a decision to leave years ago and wasn't interested. We eventually worked through mediation and got an amicable divorce. My kids live with me now and support me, but all of my in-laws and even most of my family outside of my sister think I'm a-hole. They believe I should have forced the issue more when we started counseling and either divorced or made it clearer to my wife how important counseling was to me. They've called me selfish, and some of my in-laws are refusing to interact with my kids when they're at my house. For example, my daughter FaceTimed her grandmother once this summer, and she hung up once she saw that my daughter was at my house. They also created a bit of a scene at my son's graduation in the spring, refusing to acknowledge me and demanding that my son choose to celebrate with them or me rather than having dinner together as a group. I encouraged my son to go with them and we had our own celebration later, but something happened at the dinner and my son has lived with me and been almost no contact with them since. I honestly feel like I did what was best for my kids, but now it feels like their mom's family's punishing them, and I feel like a terrible father. I admit that it might have been more mature to address the issue head-on with my relationship with my ex, but I felt that it was about more than just the two of us. Frankly, I feel like my lack of backbone years ago has made this divorce worse for my kids. But I also believe that if I had to do it again, I would still prioritize my kids over my own feelings and make the same choice. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, you did your best for your kids. His title should be changed to, until it was good for me and my kids. Both Opie and his ex check out years before. Family are mental for being so childish around Opie. The kids clearly know who are the unreasonable ones, given Son has already cut them off. Opie shouldn't worry about the trash taking itself out. Be thankful. Not the a-hole. Oh no! You wanted your daughter and family to be in a stable place before you left someone who didn't try at all? The horror. If they wanted to be petty, they can be. I understand feeling guilty, but you can't take on responsibility for the actions of others when you tried your best. Staying for an extra 3 years gave everyone the best outcome. And it's not like you didn't push for reconciliation. Your wife dropped the ball massively and just went, eh. Your kids support you and their opinions are really the only ones that count. The apple didn't fall from the tree as far as the ex is concerned. They're all a selfish, irresponsible bunch and willing to take any responsibility, and quick to blame others, and having that excuse them from any consequences. Seems the kids made their choice, and they sided with a parent that was always there for them, and doing everything they could to preserve a relationship with the other side of the family. Unless Opie has no faith in his kids, he should trust their judgment a bit here, and actually let himself be selfish for once, and feel vindicated by their actions. Of course, the in-laws are gonna bark and piss and moan because their golden angel got blindsided by a divorce. A separation she cemented when she told you, no, I'm not going to counseling with you. Your in-laws sound not only insufferable, but incapable of accountability. It may be too much effort to explain to her a-hole family that you tried for years to fix the marriage, but she was too busy, somewhere else. Not a-hole for doing what's right for your children. It sucks the in-laws are being horrible to them, but hopefully they'll develop new relationships and bonds with other people who aren't incapable of empathy or rational conversations surrounding major life events. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to cherish his other son because he's the only one he has left? Made this account a few days ago. Debated on actually posting about this because it's stupid, but here I am. So I'm 17 male and I'm graduating high school this year. My parents divorced when I was like just shy of 2. Long time ago. Dad remarried, mom remarried, then divorced again. She's single. Dad had another son with his wife who is now 14. My whole life, his other son has taken more importance. Told me I'm the older brother, so I should be stronger and not make a big deal out of it. I was like 9 years old, standing looking out the window waiting for my dad to show up, just for him to call my mom to tell me he can't make it, because the other son had a dentist appointment and he's freaking out. It was literally just a checkup. Yeah, no, sure, understandable. Let me just go F myself. Stupid things like that. He ditched my sport games for random reasons. Not even just because of my brother. He didn't come to my talent show when I was 15 because he didn't want to. That's it. Didn't want to. No plans, nothing he had to be at. Just didn't want to. I spent months learning guitar and a song to play for him since he loves guitar and he loves that song. Oh well, let me go F myself again. My parents don't have a good relationship, but my mom doesn't keep him for me. I've heard their conversations, he just doesn't want to be there. I don't know. At one point, I asked my mom if he really was my dad, and she said yes, and asked why I'm saying things like that. I asked why does he hate me then? Emotional moment, but it passed. That happened just before my 17th birthday, and since then, I've just kind of stayed in my lane. If he reached out to me, I'd say hi, but I wouldn't ask him anything. I wouldn't hug him if I saw him, I wouldn't beg for time together. Kind of indifferent, I guess. Not saying he was never in my life, but he was really only there for the moments that literally any other person would call him a dick for if he wasn't there. Birthdays, short visits on Christmas, had surgery when I was younger. He was there for that. Anything else though? And he was busy like 70% of the time. Well, last week he told me he regretted being so absent in my life. He told me he had pre-planned a trip for him to drive me to college when I start. We would leave immediately following my graduation, and we would just drive across the country. Info, not accepted to any college yet, but I've spoken to the one I want to go to, which is in Washington, and it's basically guaranteed with my grades. I told him not to bother. He should spend his summer with his son. I do want to say that I've never said no when he asked to hang out or talk on the phone. I always said yes even when I didn't want to, just to keep the peace and not cause issues. As far as I'm concerned, though, I don't have a dad. I have a mother and a man who occasionally spares time for his other kid. He didn't like my reply and said I'm his son too. Lol, not gonna lie, I laughed and asked since when. We kind of fought after that and didn't end on a good vibe. I told him I was planning on dropping contact when I turned 18, since he was probably going to do the same. So I bothered keeping this relationship alive when he's never wanted to know me and I stopped wanting him to. He's been trying to reach out, but I shut it down every time. He dropped by, but I don't see him. He calls me, I decline. He messages me, I ignore. Yesterday ago, I messaged him. Hi Dad, please stop trying to talk to me. I truly want no relationship with you. You never wanted one with me, so I don't see why you're acting so hurt by this. I don't know if you never cared about me because of your own hate for me, or your wife who never let me come over. I don't know, I don't care. I realized I do not have a dad a while ago and really accepted it recently. I'm not mad, I just don't care. Keep the same energy now that you've had the last decade, and stay away from me. I hope your relationship with your son stays just as important to you because he's your only kid. Have a good life. Dad told my mom's mad at me, and told me I should give him a chance because he's trying. Not wrong, I do feel kinda bad because I could tell when he was describing our trip, he was excited. Oh well, I wanted a dad to be proud of my achievements and my grades, but instead I got a good job card from a drugstore and an I'm proud of you text. Really sincere. Mom's still trying to guilt trip me and I'm starting to feel like I should just do the trip, then block his number when I'm at college. It's another year of faking smiles with him, and I just don't want to do that. It would be easier though. I don't know. Am I the a-hole for all this? You're not any kind of a-hole. In fact, you're giving your dad exactly what he wanted all along. A son he doesn't talk to much, who stands on his own 2 feet and doesn't expect much from his dad. That's what he created. If he wants something different, you both need to agree. It's not up to him to decide you'll be a happy family now. Agree totally. Mom actually is quite the a-hole here too, trying to still force the issue. Doesn't sound like either parent actually looked out for OP. She won't be the first parent I have seen who tries to encourage their adult, or almost adult, kid to give their useless ex additional chance. Or the last. In my experience, it's not a commentary on the parenting as a whole, usually the opposite. They've usually been no less than 95% of the total parenting that child has received and have quite often worked themselves stupid to do it. I think sometimes the parent who is left behind with a kid, for want of a better phrase, takes the obligation to protect the child from the other parent's crap almost too seriously, and it ends up that they're trying to protect an image the child saw through long ago, thinking that doing that is the right thing to do for their child, and not recognizing that the child has outgrown the pretense. I know parents who are now grandparents but are still trying to convince their kid that their ex/kid's father has changed. It's definitely an issue in this scenario, although OP should maybe see if he is at risk of getting his mom in trouble for parental alienation. I know he's very close to being an adult, but still, that could be why she's still trying to keep the peace. But I don't think it's necessarily reflective of OP's mom as a parent on the whole. Not the a-hole, not even close. I would probably do the same thing. He was an absent, crappy father. He doesn't get to decide to have a relationship with you now. You don't owe him anything. Protect your peace. Maybe someday you'll choose to forgive him, maybe not. But it's your choice, not his. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister's family live in my house after they sold theirs for a dream vacation? So I, 32 male, own a modest 3-bedroom house that I've been paying off for the last 10 years. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, and I'm proud of it. My sister, 29 female, and her husband, 31 male, are the typical free-spirited types. They've always talked about quitting the rat race, living life to the fullest, all that. Well, a few months ago, they finally did it. They sold their house during a booming market, thinking the profit would fund a year-long break to travel. They believed they could stretch the money by traveling cheaply, staying in hostels or Airbnbs, and getting by with occasional odd jobs. At first, they stayed in nicer places and ate out a lot, thinking they had plenty of cushion. But within 2 months, they were out of money. They underestimated how quickly expenses would pile up, especially with 2 young kids, 7 female and 5 male, to feed and care for. Now that their funds are drained, they've decided to stop full-time travel, but don't want to settle down yet. Instead, they asked to live with me, rent-free, for the next 10 months while they figure things out. They say they'll still try to take some occasional trips if they find super cheap deals, but for the most part, they want to stay at my house. I told them no. My house isn't big enough. I don't want the disruption, and I certainly don't think it's fair for them to live off me because their plan failed. I offered to help them find an affordable rental, or even cover part of their expenses for a couple of months so they could get back on their feet, but that wasn't enough. My sister blew up at me, calling me selfish and accusing me of being jealous of their adventurous lifestyle. To make it worse, my parents are siding with her, saying that family should help family and that I'm being too rigid. The thing is, my parents live in a small apartment and can't take in my sister's family, which is probably why they're pushing it to me. They say I don't understand the value of experiences and that I should be more supportive. Some of our mutual friends are also saying I should be more understanding, but I think it's completely unreasonable to expect me to house their whole family for nearly a year just because they didn't plan properly. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. They say I don't understand the value of experiences. Tell them you don't value the experience of having freeloaders in your house indefinitely. Not a-hole. I would have just started laughing uncontrollably and wouldn't have even been able to answer for the last 5 minutes. Financial screw-ups, check. Parents on side of financial screw-ups, check. Mutual friends on side of the financial screw-ups, check. Parents can upsize. Mutual friends can accommodate. You are under zero obligation to fund their financial screw-ups. Yep, I would start telling all of those people, I'm so glad you want to help sister/brother-in-law. Would you like me to tell them the great news that they can live with you rent-free with their 2 kids? Or do you want to give them the happy news? To the parents, I'm happy you want to help them out. Do you want my help to sell your current place and look for a bigger place? When they're all like, oh, we don't want to house them, be like, yeah, neither do I. So you do understand. You just think it's okay for them to take advantage of me. Good to know you think so little of me. I will be lowering contact till you pull your head out of your behind. Not a-hole OP. OP, please install cameras all around your house if you don't already have any. People who think it's wise to sell their home and become vagrants with very young kids who should be learning socializing in school are not sane people, and I wouldn't put it past them to try and force their way in and squat. Next story. Am I the a-hole for accidentally ruining a highly anticipated wedding through a compliment? I, 17 female, have been staying at my uncle's house for a few weeks now. He is a handicapped man who lost both his legs to a car accident 5 years ago. Being a wheelchair user, he always believed that he would never get married or have a love life because of his age and physical limitations. However, he is a very hilarious man with an entertaining personality, and almost all our relatives love him and we all wanted him to find love. After a lot of matchmaking, he finally started dating a girl a year ago. They decided to get married on September 25th, 2024. A week ago, I came across an Instagram post of my friend, and in that picture I saw my uncle's girlfriend chilling in the background. What I didn't notice was a guy standing next to her. She was wearing a beautiful dress, so I sent that picture to my uncle appreciating his girl's beauty. Turns out that the guy I ignored was her ex. There arose some conflicts, and he called off the marriage. She may or may not have cheated on him. They didn't clarify anything. All my relatives are outraged after realizing that I was the main reason for this. They told me that I should have shown something like this to proper adults, instead of ruining a long-awaited marriage. I tried telling them that I didn't expect it to turn out like this, but they all keep insulting me for being a family ruiner. My uncle said that we should not try matchmaking in this case again, and that he is not interested in anything anymore. My senseless action led to all this mess, and I feel very guilty. Edit 1. The picture was not taken long ago. It was clicked on September 10 at the birthday party of the said friend's sibling. Not the a-hole. You didn't ruin the marriage. It was a pre-existing issue that you unknowingly exposed. Exactly. It's unfair to blame her for uncovering something that was already brewing beneath the surface. It's tough to see how one mistake spiraled into such chaos. Your intentions were good, but it's a reminder that relationship can be fragile. Don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't mean for this to happen. So wait, your family thinks it would have been better if your uncle never found out his fiancée cheated on him and just ignorantly married a cheater anyway? Jesus, what a bunch of ableist a-holes. Your uncle is not some charity case who should gratefully accept whatever crappy cheating a-hole is willing to make a terrible sacrifice of marrying him. He's a good man with a great sense of humor who happens to use a wheelchair. He's allowed to have as high standards for a partner as anyone. Whoever he ends up with will be just as lucky to be with him as he will be to be with her. If your uncle was able-bodied and his fiancée cheated, no one would think you ruined his wedding by accidentally alerting him to the cheating. They would rightfully blame the cheating fiancée for ruining her own wedding and breaking your uncle's heart. This deeply ableist belief that this was his only chance, and you ruined it by revealing she was a crappy person, but crappy is all he can hope for, so it would have been better if he never found out. So this is your fault, Opie? Is absolutely disgusting. Your uncle deserves better from his future partners, and way better from his horrible ableist family, who don't seem to see him as a whole person equally deserving of love, loyalty, and respect. I agree. Even with your uncle's condition, he deserves someone that will truly love him and will not cheat on him. You did not ruin his wedding. You prevented your uncle from being miserable if he finds out that her girlfriend is cheating on him after their marriage, Opie. Not the a-hole. Edit 2. After taking inspiration from all the people that told me I am not at fault, I mustered up the courage to ask my cousin what exactly happened. The girlfriend was indeed cheating. I confirmed it. I stated that my family loves my uncle, but hearing everyone's take on this, I am genuinely questioning it. I don't know much about the core family drama involved in this, because they don't consider me an adult to share any of it. They are enforcing the forgive and forget culture. My grandmother is still trying to convince my uncle for a compromise. Apparently, I don't think she considers cheating as a problem. Don't question me. I am just as baffled as all of you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to go nuclear after my sister-in-law kicked out her teenage sons? Hey everyone, my husband 34 and I 36 are in a tough situation with my sister-in-law, Barbara 41, and we need an outside perspective on whether we're overreacting or if our stance is justified. We're leaning toward the latter but are open to thoughts. Barbara has 4 boys, 17, 14, 13, and 7. Despite her having a rough history with bad relationships, her kids have always been well-behaved. The only constant man in her life has been Reese, 48, her on and off husband who does nothing for her or the kids except work. He blows his money gambling, cheats on her openly, and relies on her for everything else. For 7 years, she's come to us venting about him, swearing it's the last time, but always goes back. In 2020, after yet another huge fight, the entire family intervened. We sat her down, told her we were here to help with anything she needed. Lawyers, a safe place for her and the kids, even handling the legal stuff if necessary. She agreed to kick him out, but within 6 months he was back because he couldn't find a place to stay. This grown man, who has worked a steady job for 20 years, somehow needed help. Since then, things have gotten progressively worse. Barbara decided to stick with marriage counseling, even though the whole family urged her to leave. She's clung to the idea of honoring her marriage despite the toxic environment. As a result, her kids have started to suffer. The eldest started skipping school and smoking heavily. A few months ago, my husband got a 2 a.m. call from him who said he was self-harming and afraid to act on it. When we got to their house, we learned he had told his stepdad the same thing, and Reese told him to just do it because no one would care. My husband, understandably, hit him in the face. We took the boy to the hospital and after his release, brought him home with us for 3 weeks to help him recover. Eventually, he returned to his mom's house, thinking things had smoothed over, but they quickly fell apart again. Soon enough, the second oldest began having issues too. For months, they'd been fighting constantly, and we didn't realize how bad it had gotten until we couldn't get in touch with either of them. Barbara had gone silent. My husband showed up at her house and announced, something our family often does for fun, only to find out that she had washed her hands of the 2 boys for being disrespectful and kicked them out. She had even turned off their phones and didn't know where they were staying. We found out that they'd been crashing with friends for weeks, tried to stay under the radar because they were embarrassed. We picked them up from school and brought them home with us again. They told us that their mom and stepdad had been bullying them, constantly fighting, and that they didn't feel safe going back. Barbara admitted that she put them out, but insisted things weren't as bad as they made it sound. Now, my husband and I want to go full nuclear, report this to CPS, the police, and anyone who can intervene. But the rest of the family wants to handle it internally. We feel like 2 minors were abandoned and that deserves an extreme response. But the family is now saying we're overreacting and at the end of the day, these are not our children. So, are we the a-holes for wanting to report this situation and not leave it to family discussions? The 2 oldest boys are with us for now, but we're ready to escalate this. Now for the top comments before the little update. Escalated Monday morning. Good grief, what a mess. Not the a-hole. No, don't wait for a business day. This needs to be handled now. A call to CPS and police. You can't kick your kids out of your home. There are still 2 kids in the home. They need to be checked on too. The 2 oldest were kicked out because they could and probably were fighting back. The youngest can't. Not the a-hole. You're not the a-hole. Barbara's actions, kicking out her teenage sons and creating a toxic, unsafe environment, are serious and should be reported. You're absolutely right to involve authorities like CPS and the police. This is about protecting the kids, and family discussions won't fix the underlying issues. You did the right thing by prioritizing the boys' safety. It's good you called the police. This situation requires outside intervention. Not the a-hole. You can save the other 2 kids a decade of trauma if you put your foot down and end this. If she won't leave him, that's her problem. But those kids need out. Don't be the family that watches them get burned to the ground and does almost nothing but watch 'cause family. Be the family that cares enough to save them. Ignore all the enablers who get upset. I was that child, and I will die with resentment for most of my family who knew, but ignored it. Be the adults those kids deserve. Do the right thing, even if it angers people off because they can't pretend everything is perfect anymore to outsiders. Stop protecting the adults and protect the children. Before you escalate, you should get a family law attorney and get on pace to get certified to be foster parents. Being related is not an automatic reason for CPS to give custody. Ask how I know. Go nuclear after your ducks are in a row. Definitely prioritize the boys' safety. Report it. They need a stable environment ASAP. Update: we call the police. Thank you all for the support. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go to my cousin's wedding after she brought a cake saying recovering from drugs to my birthday? So I, 32 female, have been clean for almost 3 years now after struggling with drug addiction. It's been a rough road, but I'm proud of how far I've come. Most of my family have been supportive, but some not so much. My cousin Emily, 28 female, and I aren't that close. We get along, but it's not like we talk often or anything. A few months ago, my family threw me a small birthday party. I was feeling really good about it. I mean, I've been through a lot, and I was finally in a place where I could enjoy being around people again. Everything was going fine until it was time for cake. Emily walks in, all smiles, holding a cake that says, "Congratulations on recovering from drugs," in big bright letters. I felt like my heart dropped. It was so embarrassing. I mean, yeah, everyone there knew about my recovery, but it wasn't something I wanted plastered all over a cake at my birthday party. Some people laughed awkwardly, and I could tell a few of my family members were just as uncomfortable as I was. Emily, though, acted like it was the funniest thing in the world. She said it was just a joke, and she thought it'd be a funny way to acknowledge my progress. I tried to keep it together, smiled through it, but inside I was hurt and angry. Afterwards, I pulled her aside and told her the cake was completely out of line. She kinda rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, it was just a joke, and you're being too sensitive. I was just trying to show I'm proud of you." I explained that my recovery isn't something I want joked about, especially not in front of people, but she didn't seem to get it at all. She just shrugged and moved on, like it was no big deal. Now our wedding is coming up in a few weeks, and I really don't want to go. I'm still hurt over what happened, and I just feel like she doesn't respect my boundaries. It's a big family event though, so if I don't go, everyone's going to notice and ask why. But honestly, I don't want to sit through the whole thing pretending everything is fine when it's not. I told my mom how I felt, and she said I'm overreacting. She thinks Emily's joke was dumb but harmless, and that skipping the wedding would just cause drama for no reason. She keeps telling me to just let it go and not make things awkward, but I don't know if I can. I feel like this is more than just about the cake. It's about the fact that Emily doesn't seem to respect my recovery or my feelings. Am I really supposed to just get over it for the sake of a family peace? Not the a-hole. She crossed a major line. Your feelings are valid. Thank you. I absolutely agree. Don't go if you don't want to. You can, however, wear a sash with "recovering drug addict" on it and see how funny she'll find that. Not the a-hole totally, and your mom should be on your side and not to try to appease some family members. Take yourself on a trip on the day of the wedding. Take lots of pictures and share them with everyone on social media with captions that say things like, "My cousin reminded me how important it is to celebrate my sobriety, so I am." Enjoy your life. Your feelings are so valid. And that's the thing about invitations. They are requests, not requirements. You never have to go to anything you're invited to if you don't want to go. And it can be for any reason at all. Your cousin being a jerk is definitely a good reason. And anyone who is mad about it afterward can stay mad, because you are allowed to make adult choices in your adult life. Your cousin was hurtful, period. And everyone else at a party, besides the ones defending her, knows it. If they're also invited to the wedding, they will completely understand when you don't show up. They might not even show up themselves. Who wants to celebrate a person like that anyway? I wish you well and congratulations on your sobriety. That's such an amazingly huge thing, and you've got all my respect.